Inside Skull and Bones, the secret society of America's presidents. Hello and welcome back to Driftwood Histories. Tonight, our journey takes us away from the ancient myths of Europe and into the heart of the American establishment. We are venturing into the hallowed, ivy-covered walls of one of the world's most prestigious universities, a place that has served as a crucible for American power for centuries. But we are not exploring its public lecture halls or its grand libraries. We are seeking a place far more secret, a place with no windows, a place known simply as the Tomb. This is the home of the Order of Skull and Bones, arguably America's most famous, most exclusive, and most feared secret society. A brotherhood that has counted presidents, senators, Supreme Court justices, and CIA directors among its numbers. A society whose influence is said to stretch from the battlefields of war to the boardrooms of Wall Street. But what really happens inside this windowless crypt? What are the strange rituals that bind these future leaders together for life? And is Skull and Bones merely an elite college fraternity? Or is it, as many have whispered, the nucleus of a secret American ruling class? So, find your comfortable place. Let the modern world fall away. Close your eyes, and allow my voice to be your guide as we attempt to part the veil on this uniquely American mystery, and step inside the world of Skull and Bones. Our story begins not with a conspiracy, but with a collegiate dispute and the ambition of two young men. Part 1, The Brotherhood of Death, the Founding and the Tapping. In the year 1832, Yale University or Yale College, as it was then known, was the undisputed training ground for the American elite. It was a crucible where the sons of the nation's most powerful families were forged into future leaders. And within the rigid social ecosystem of Yale, a student's identity, his social standing, and indeed, his future prospects, were largely determined by the senior secret society he was invited to join. At the time, the most prestigious and intellectually respected of these societies was Phi Beta Kappa. Originally founded at the College of William and Mary as a secret philosophical fraternity, its Yale chapter had become the premier honor society, a mark of the highest academic achievement. But in that year, a bitter dispute erupted within the ranks of Phi Beta Kappa over the selection of academic awards. A group of students felt that the society had become stale, that its honors were being given out for the wrong reasons, that it had lost its exclusive esoteric edge. Among the most disgruntled of these students were two ambitious, well-connected, and deeply serious seniors, William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft. William Huntington Russell was the scion of a powerful New England family, a future state legislator and, during the Civil War, a general in the Connecticut militia. Alphonso Taft was a man of formidable intellect and even greater ambition. He would go on to have a storied career in public service, serving as Secretary of War, as Attorney General of the United States, and as an ambassador. He would also become the patriarch of a political dynasty, the father of one future U.S. President, William Howard Taft. These were not frivolous young men. They were serious students of history, power, and society. Disgusted with what they saw as the decline of Yale's existing societies, they decided to create something new, something more exclusive, more powerful, and shrouded in a deeper, more profound, and more intimidating secrecy. Drawing inspiration from the occult and philosophical secret societies they had encountered or read about during their studies, particularly those in Germany, they resolved to found a new brotherhood. They did not give it a gentle, scholarly name, reflecting a 19th-century romantic fascination with the macabre, with Gothic imagery, and with the great themes of mortality and legacy. They called their new order the Brotherhood of Death. Their chosen emblem became the now infamous and unforgettable symbol, a human skull and two crossed femurs. And beneath this stark symbol of mortality, they placed the cryptic number 322. The meaning of this number is one of the Order's most closely guarded and enduring secrets, a cipher that has tantalized researchers and conspiracy theorists for generations. While the Order itself has never confirmed its meaning, the most compelling and widely accepted theory suggests that it refers to the year 322 BC. In that year, two pivotal events occurred in the ancient Greek world. The great Athenian orator Demosthenes, who had spent his life warning his fellow citizens of the rising imperial power of Macedon, took his own life by poison rather than be captured by his enemies. And in that same year, the city of Athens, the birthplace of democracy, finally and completely fell under Macedonian control. For the classically educated founders of the Order, 322 BC was a date of immense symbolic power. It represented the moment when a great republic, a democracy, died and gave way to a more powerful, less transparent, and more authoritarian form of rule empire. It was a fitting, if chilling, touchstone for a secret society that would seek to groom the future leaders of the great American Republic. Other, less dramatic theories propose that the 32 simply refers to the year of the society's founding, 1832, and that the final 2 indicates that it was the second chapter of a German parent organization, which Russell had supposedly encountered during a visit to Germany. The truth, like all things concerning the order, remains locked inside their headquarters. This headquarters is a formidable building, a windowless, brown sandstone structure located at 64 High Street in the heart of the Yale campus. Built in a severe, eclectic style that blends Greco-Egyptian and Gothic revival elements, it has heavy, padlocked iron doors and no nameplate to announce its purpose. It is designed to repel curiosity and to guard its contents. The members of the order refer to it as the Tomb, an apt name for the home of the Brotherhood of Death. The process of becoming a member, a bonesman, begins in the spring of a Yale student's junior year. The ritual of selection is called tapping. It is a piece of public, yet intensely private, campus theater, a tradition that has remained largely unchanged for nearly 2 centuries. Each year, the 15 senior members of the order, who are known as patriarchs during their time in the tomb, select 15, and only 15 new members from the junior class. Not 14, not 16, 15. This number has remained constant for most of the society's history, creating a small, intensely loyal, and ever-growing network of the elite. The tapping ritual itself is designed for maximum dramatic effect. On a specific Thursday evening in April, known as Tap Day, the senior members, dressed in dark suits, fan out across the Yale campus. They will locate their chosen prospective member, often in a very public space in a library, in a courtyard, during a sporting event, or even in the student's own room. The senior member will then clap the junior firmly on the shoulder and intone the cryptic and famous phrase, "Skull and Bones, do you accept?" The junior is then expected to leave whatever they are doing and follow the senior member away. This invitation, this tap, once extended, is almost never refused. To be tapped for bones is to be marked for life. For nearly 160 years, from its founding in 1832 until 1991, the Order of Skull and Bones was exclusively male and almost entirely white and Protestant. It was the very definition of a WASP establishment institution. But in the late 20th century, that began to change. In 1991, after a contentious and highly publicized internal struggle, the senior members in the tomb voted to admit women. This decision sparked a furious backlash from some of the more conservative alumni, or patriarchs, of the order. They were so incensed that they obtained a court order, changed the locks on the tomb, and declared the 1991 tap null and void. The dispute was eventually settled, and the next year, in 1992, the first women were officially tapped and initiated into the order. But the general profile of its members has remained remarkably consistent. They are, for the most part, campus leaders. They are the captains of the varsity sports teams, the editors of the Yale Daily News, the leaders of the student government, and very often the children of the powerful and the wealthy, including legacies, the sons and daughters of former bonesmen. They are the chosen few. And what a choice it is. To read the alumni list of Skull and Bones is to read a roll call of the American establishment. 3 United States presidents have been members. The first was William Howard Taft, the son of the founder Alphonso Taft. He was tapped in 1878. The next 2 would create one of the most extraordinary situations in the history of American politics. George H. W. Bush, the 41st president, was tapped in 1948, and his son, George W. Bush, the 43rd president, was tapped in 1968. This led to the historically unprecedented situation in the 2004 presidential election, where both major party candidates, the incumbent Republican President George W. Bush and the Democratic challenger, Senator John Kerry of Massachusetts, tapped in 1966, were both initiated members of the same tiny secret society. When the journalist Tim Russert, on the program Meet the Press, pressed both men on their shared membership, their evasive, almost identical, responses were a rare public glimpse into the powerful code of silence that binds the members. "It's a secret," Senator Kerry said with an uncomfortable smile. "So secret we can't talk about it," President Bush echoed in a separate interview. The moment was a stark and unsettling demonstration that the bond of the order, the vow of secrecy sworn in the tomb, transcended even the bitter partisan divides of a modern presidential campaign. The network of bonesmen extends far beyond the Oval Office. Supreme Court justices like Potter Stewart, powerful cabinet secretaries like Henry Stimson, who served as Secretary of War during World War II and made the fateful decision to drop the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and influential diplomats like Averell Harriman, who was a key figure in American diplomacy during the Cold War, have all been members of the order. The world of intelligence is deeply and inextricably intertwined with the order. Some historians have even called Skull and Bones a recruiting ground for the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. The CIA was founded in 1947, and many of its early, influential, and founding father figures were Yale men, and a significant number of them were bonesmen. This includes McGeorge Bundy, who, after helping to shape the early CIA, went on to become the national security advisor to Presidents Kennedy and Johnson, and was one of the key architects of the Vietnam War. And the world of American media and culture has been profoundly shaped by Bonesmen as well. Henry Luce, the man who founded Time, Life, and Fortune magazines, effectively creating the modern news magazine and shaping the way America saw itself and the world for half a century, was a member. And William F. Buckley Jr., the brilliant, and influential writer who founded the National Review magazine and became the intellectual godfather of the modern American conservative movement, was also a proud Bonesman. The Order is a self-perpetuating cycle of elite power. They tap the next generation of campus leaders, who then go on to become powerful figures in government, finance, and media, and who, in turn, through the powerful alumni network, help the next generation of Bonesmen to rise. But what is the secret that binds them so tightly together? What is the source of this lifelong, unbreakable loyalty? What happens inside that foreboding, windowless building on High Street? What happens inside the tomb? Part 2. Inside the tomb: rituals, relics, and a sacred bond. What happens inside the tomb? This is the central question, the great mystery that has surrounded the Order of Skull and Bones for nearly 2 centuries. The vow of silence taken by its members is so absolute that very few have ever spoken in detail about their experiences. But over the years, through the painstaking work of a few brave researchers, through the accounts of a handful of disillusioned members who dared to break their oath, and, most importantly, through a trove of internal documents that were leaked and discovered in the 1970s, a fascinating, if fragmented picture has emerged of the secret world within. The initiation process, which takes place at the end of the member's junior year, is said to be a deeply psychological and highly theatrical affair, a rite of passage designed to break down the individual ego and forge a new, collective identity. Upon entering the tomb for the first time, the 15 new initiates are referred to as barbarians, outsiders who have yet to be enlightened. They are led into a dark, lavishly decorated inner sanctum, a room filled with eerie artifacts, skeletons, and morbid, Germanic-style decor, all designed to reinforce the society's Brotherhood of Death aesthetic. It is here, in a room known as the Inner Temple or Room 322, that a key ritual is said to unfold. The initiate, the barbarian, is told to lie naked in a coffin. In this state of symbolic death and total vulnerability, they must perform what is known as the sexual autobiography. They must recount their entire personal and sexual history, their first loves, their deepest desires, their most secret fears, their most shameful moments. The 15 senior members of the Order, the patriarchs, who stand and listen in the darkness. This is not for prurient interest. It is a powerful and ancient ritual of confession and psychological bonding. It is an act of stripping away the initiate's old, barbarian identity and making them completely and utterly vulnerable to their new brothers. By entrusting their deepest and most intimate secrets to the group, an unbreakable bond of trust and mutual obligation is forged. They now share a secret that can never be unshared. It is an act of total surrender to the group. After this symbolic death in the coffin, they are reborn into the Order. Each new member is given a new name, a Bones name, which they will use for the rest of their lives in their correspondence with other members of the Order. This new name signifies their rebirth into the secret world of the Brotherhood. Tradition dictates that certain names are passed down through the generations of Bonesmen. The member who is deemed to have the most sexual experience, for example, is often dubbed Magog, a name of biblical and occult significance. It is a name that President George H. W. Bush reportedly held. The tallest member is often called Long Devil. The captain of the campus football team might be named Boaz, a reference to one of the 2 great pillars that stood at the entrance to King Solomon's temple. The patriarchs, the older alumni who oversee the Order's finances and its powerful alumni network, the Russell Trust Association, are known collectively as the Patriarchs or Uncle Toby. Life inside the tomb during their senior year at Yale is a mix of intense intellectual debate and strange ritual. The 15 members, now known as Knights, meet twice a week, on Thursday and Sunday nights. Dinner is a formal affair, served by attendants in a grand dining room called the Crypt. The members are said to dine using antique, ornate silverware that, according to a persistent and deeply disturbing legend, once belonged to Adolf Hitler. This is just one part of the Order's macabre collection of historical relics, objects of power and infamy. This collection is the source of the most lurid and controversial legends surrounding Skull and Bones. The Order is known to be a society of crooks, a term they use for members who engage in the ritualistic theft of memorabilia from the Yale campus and from around the world. The tomb is said to be filled with these stolen artifacts, street signs, athletic trophies, and historical objects. The most persistent and controversial of these legends is the claim that the Order possesses the skull of Geronimo, the legendary and revered Apache warrior. The story, which is supported by a letter found in the 1970s written by a Bonesman, alleges that Prescott Bush, the father of President George H.W. Bush and the grandfather of President George W. Bush dug up Geronimo's grave while he was stationed as an army captain at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, during World War I. He and a few other bonesmen are said to have stolen the skull, some bones, and other personal artifacts, including Geronimo's silver bridle. They brought these remains back to the tomb, where the skull is said to be displayed in a glass case and used as a ritual object. This accusation is not taken lightly by the Apache people. In 2009, 20 of Geronimo's descendants, including his great-grandson, filed a lawsuit against the Order of Skull and Bones, as well as Yale University and the U.S. government, demanding the return of the remains so they could be properly and respectfully buried according to their traditions. The case was eventually dismissed on technical grounds, but the mystery, the profound accusation of grave robbing, and the shadow of disrespect to a great Native American leader still lingers over the tomb. Other legends claim that the order also possesses the skulls of the Mexican revolutionary Pancho Villa and the former president of the United States, Martin Van Buren. But beyond the strange rituals and the stolen skulls, what is the true purpose of the order? What happens during those long nights in the tomb? The core of the experience seems to be a form of intense, confessional group therapy and intellectual debate. The 15 knights are encouraged to speak with absolute candor about their lives, their ambitions, and their views on the world. They critique each other, they support each other, and they forge a bond of loyalty that is designed to last a lifetime. A central part of their time in the tomb is the life history. Each member, over the course of the year, must present their entire life story to their 14 brothers, a much deeper and more comprehensive version of the initiation confession. This process creates a level of intimacy and understanding that is rare in the outside world. They are also being groomed for power. They are being trained to think as members of a ruling class. A famous, if perhaps apocryphal, saying about the order is that it aims to create the character of the English gentleman on the bones of a Yankee. It is about instilling a sense of duty, of leadership, and of a responsibility to govern. But is it a conspiracy to rule the world? Proponents of this view see a clear and undeniable line of influence. They point to the disproportionate number of bonesmen in key government positions throughout the 20th century, particularly in the State Department and the newly formed Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, during the Cold War. They argue that the order's ethos, a blend of American exceptionalism, a sense of noblesse oblige, and a profound belief in their duty to lead, creates a ruling class that operates above and outside the normal channels of democratic accountability. They see the order's powerful alumni network, the Russell Trust Association, which manages the society's vast and secret financial endowment, not as a simple alumni club, but as the hidden hand that guides the fortunes of its members. They see the order's influence in the decision to drop the atomic bomb, a decision made by Secretary of War Henry Stimson, a bonesman. They see it in the escalation of the Vietnam War, a policy overseen by National Security Advisor McGeorge Bundy, a bonesman. They see it in the very fabric of American foreign policy and high finance. They see Skull and Bones not as a fraternity, but as a silent, self-perpetuating oligarchy, an American aristocracy that masquerades as a meritocracy. Skeptics, however, offer a more sober and, perhaps, more realistic analysis. They argue that this is a classic case of confusing correlation with causation. The order doesn't make its members powerful. It selects members who are already on a clear trajectory to become powerful. By tapping the campus leaders, the top athletes, the editors of the Yale Daily News, and the sons and daughters of the American establishment at one of the world's most elite universities, of course its alumni list will be filled with influential people. The conspiracy, they argue, is not a secret plan hatched in the tomb. It is simply the way that elite networks have always functioned. It is the power of a shared, intense, and secret experience. It is the power of a sacred bond, forged in a crypt, that creates a loyalty stronger than any political party or ideology. A bonesman is expected to help a fellow bonesman. Doors are opened. Phone calls are answered. Opportunities are provided. It is the ultimate old boys network. Perhaps the most revealing insight comes from a leaked internal document from the 1870s, which describes the order's purpose. It speaks of fitting its members for the duties of life and of creating a new world. But this new world seems to be one of personal and moral excellence, a world led by men of virtue and integrity, not a literal new world order of global domination. Yet, the profound secrecy, the morbid and bizarre rituals, the incredible concentration of power within its ranks, it all combines to create an aura of deep and unsettling mystery. Skull and Bones remains a uniquely American enigma. It is a fraternity that seems to worship at the altar of power itself. Its members are chosen, sworn to a silence they almost never break, and then launched into the world to lead, to govern, and to shape our lives. They may not be plotting in the shadows of their windowless tomb, but their influence, woven through the very fabric of the American century, is undeniable. They are the chosen few, the brotherhood of death, the keepers of a secret that has been locked away for nearly 200 years. They are a club whose headquarters has a clock that is, by tradition, always set 5 minutes fast. Because a bonesman, they say, is always ahead of the outside world. And so our journey inside the world of the Order of Skull and Bones comes to its conclusion. We have peered through the veil of secrecy that surrounds the windowless tomb on High Street. We have explored the strange rituals that bind its members together for life, and we have traced the long and powerful shadow that this secret society has cast over American history. We began our story with the Brotherhood of Death, learning of its founding in the halls of Yale University in 1832 by two ambitious seniors, William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft. We saw how a collegiate dispute over honors gave birth to a society obsessed with secrecy, with Germanic esoteric traditions, and with the cryptic and enduring symbol of the skull and the number 322. We witnessed the solemn and public ritual of tapping, the annual selection of 15 juniors who are marked, from that day forward, for a life of influence and obligation. Then we stepped, in our imagination, inside the tomb. We explored the strange and psychologically intense initiation rites, from the sexual autobiography, performed while lying naked in a coffin, to the adoption of a new, secret bones name like Magog or Long Devil. We delved into the legends of the Order's macabre collection of relics, including the alleged skull of the great Apache warrior Geronimo, a controversy that continues to this day. And we examined the Society's powerful alumni network, the Russell Trust Association, a network whose membership list includes 3 U.S. presidents, numerous Supreme Court justices, CIA directors, cabinet secretaries, and titans of media and finance. So, is the Order of Skull and Bones a world-ruling conspiracy, a secret cabal that plots the course of history from a university crypt? The evidence for a formal, centralized, and malicious plot is thin. But it is, without a doubt, one of the most successful and influential elite networks in modern history. Its power lies not in secret edicts or grand, master plans, but in the unbreakable, lifelong bond of brotherhood. A bond forged in a dark room at an old university, a bond of shared secrets and mutual obligation, a bond that has quietly and profoundly shaped the world we live in. It is a uniquely American secret society, born not of ancient European mysteries or medieval knighthoods, but from the very heart of the American establishment itself. It is a story of power, of privilege, and of a secret that has been kept, with remarkable success, for nearly 200 years. The enduring power of the Order is a testament to the power of a network, a brotherhood that has placed its members at the very center of American life, from the battlefield to the boardroom, and, on more than one occasion, to the Oval Office itself. Thank you for joining me on this voyage with Driftwood Histories. If these stories have stirred your curiosity and soothed your mind, I invite you to subscribe and join our community of fellow travelers. There are many more hidden currents of time, many more secret histories, for us to explore together. Until then, sleep well. May your own bonds of fellowship be those of kindness. May you always value integrity over secrecy, and may your dreams be free from the shadows of the tomb. Good night.